The ocean looks different at night. From the deck of the cruise ship SS Voyager, it appeared almost serene, a vast, inky expanse rolling gently beneath a canopy of brilliant stars. The ship's deck lights cast a soft, golden halo over the water immediately surrounding the hull, turning the small waves into fleeting glimmers of silver and black. Higher up, on the pool deck and in the main atrium lounge, faint strains of music drifted down timeless rock classics, blending with upbeat pop tracks that kept the last partygoers moving. Laughter echoed sporadically, glasses of soda, juice, and sparkling water clinked in casual toasts, and the savory aroma of late-night pizza and French fries wafted through the open-air corridors. Most of the 2,000-plus passengers had already retired to their cabins, lulled by the ship's steady rhythm and the day's excursions. But a handful of night owls remained drawn to the quiet magic of the open sea after midnight. Down on the lower promenade deck, the atmosphere shifted noticeably. The wind was fresher here, carrying the pure, sharp scent of salt and distant rain. The water slapped softly against the massive steel hull, a rhythmic sound almost hypnotic in its regularity, beyond the reach of the deck's warm yellow bulbs. However, the ocean vanished into absolute blackness. No horizon line, no distinguishing features, just an invisible void that swallowed light and sound alike. The SS Voyager pressed forward at a steady 19 to 20 knots, its powerful engines thrumming deep in the belly of the ship, propelling the floating city through the Caribbean night toward the next island stop. Ethan Harper leaned against the railing, his large hands gripping the cool metal bar. At 38, he carried the build of a man who had spent decades doing heavy physical labor. Broad shoulders, thick forearms corded with muscle, a slight paunch from too many post-shift meals grabbed on the go. Back in Detroit, he was a construction foreman, the guy who kept crews on schedule through rain, snow, and impossible deadlines. The job paid the bills, but it had cost him plenty. A marriage that ended in divorce 3 years earlier, court-ordered child support, and limited weekends with his 2 sons, ages 10 and 12. The boys lived for baseball, and Ethan made every game he could drive to, sitting in the stands with a thermos of coffee, cheering louder than anyone. But the distance, both miles and emotional, nawid at the. This cruise was his first real vacation in over a decade, a week-long escape booked with his college buddies, no side plans, no safety meetings, just salt air and old stories. He wore a faded gray hoodie zipped halfway, jeans worn soft at the knees, and work boots that still carried traces of sawdust. The ship's gentle roll rocked him slightly, and he exhaled slowly. "Man, I could stay out here forever," he murmured, half to himself. Beside him, Mason Reed rested his forearms on the rail, staring into the dark. 36 years old, slimmer and paler from office life, Mason wore wire-rimmed glasses that perpetually slid down his nose. He worked as a senior accountant for a mid-sized firm in downtown Chicago, where days blurred into spreadsheets, client calls, and endless compliance reports. His apartment was small, neat, and quiet, home to one gray tabby cat named Whiskers, who tolerated him at best. No partner, no kids, no pressing social calendar. The routine had started feeling like a slow suffocation, especially after a brutal quarter filled with layoffs and overtime. This trip had been Mason's idea. He had found the deal online during a sleepless night and texted the group chat, "We need this. Say yes." Now, standing here, he felt the first real loosening in his chest in months. "No inbox waiting for me tomorrow," he said softly. "No urgent flags. Just this." Daniel Ortiz approached from the direction of the snack bar, balancing a large paper plate piled with hot fries and a side of ketchup. At 35, Daniel was the group's natural energizer: loud laugh, quick smile, endless supply of stories. He sold automotive parts across Florida, spending long days behind the wheel of his company truck, building relationships with garage owners and mechanics. His life had direction. Now, Afiancinamid Maria, a down payment saved for a small house in Orlando, wedding plans tentatively set for next spring. He had battled gambling in his 20s, sports bets that spiraled out of control, but he had clawed his way back with therapy, support groups, and sheer stubbornness. "You brooding again?" he teased, holding out the plate. "Vacation rules, carbs after midnight, no exceptions. Grab some before they get cold." Ryan Patel reached over with a grin and snagged a handful. 34, originally from New Jersey, but now rooted in Brooklyn, Ryan made his living as a freelance photographer. Weddings, corporate events, street portraiture, chased the light wherever it appeared. His camera, a reliable Canon with a worn strap, hung around his neck constantly. Even now the lens cap was off, ready for spontaneous shots. Life had not been gentle to him. His parents died in a highway accident when he was 20, leaving him and his older sister to navigate grief mostly alone. She lived in California now, and their calls were warm but infrequent. Ryan poured himself into his work, turning pain into art, but the solitude crept in during quiet moments. "These fries are hitting different out here," he said, chewing thoughtfully. He lifted his camera, framing the 5 of them against the starry backdrop and the dark sea. "This light is magic. Stars, ship glow, black, water-perfect contrast." Caleb Thompson remained a step back from the group, arms crossed over his chest, eyes scanning the horizon out of habit. 37, tall and lean, with the quiet alertness of someone who had learned to notice details others missed. He drove long-haul trucks out of Nashville cross-country, runs that kept him on the road for days at a time. Before that, he had been an Army infantryman to combat tours in the Middle East that left him with scars both visible and hidden. No wife, no children. Relationships had ended when the nightmares became too frequent. He kept in touch with his mother and a couple of old squad mates, but mostly he preferred the solitude of the highway. "Ocean looks peaceful," he said in his low southern drawl. "But peace don't mean safe." The 5 men had come together gradually over the years. Ethan and Caleb connected first through a veterans outreach event in Atlanta. Poker nights followed, then barbecues, road trips. Daniel joined via a mutual friend. Mason through online gaming forums that spilled into real life. Ryan through a photography gig at one of their reunions. They were different, blue-collar, white-collar, creative, disciplined, but the bond held. All American men in their 30s. Each carrying private weights, each finding relief in shared laughter and silence. That night, conversation flowed easily. Ethan described his older son's first home run of the season, voice thick with pride. "Kid rounded the bases like he owned the field. I was yelling so loud the ump gave me a look." Mason did spot-on impressions of his micromanaging supervisor, earning belly laughs. Daniel outlined wedding details, beach venue, small guest lists, how nervous he was about public vows. Ryan scrolled through his camera roll, showing shots from earlier. Children cannonballing into the ship's pool, an elderly couple slow dancing at sunset, the 5 of them clinking glasses at dinner. Caleb listened mostly, offering occasional dry comments that cut straight to the heart of things. His eyes kept returning to the water, as though measuring its depth. By 1:15 a.m., the promenade had emptied almost completely. The music from above softened to mellow jazz instrumentals. The wind sharpened, tugging at hoods and sleeves. Ryan placed his camera carefully on a nearby bolted-down table and stretched, rolling his shoulders. "Need to loosen up? Gonna grab a soda from the bar. Anyone else?" He took one step back, arching his spine in a full stretch. His heels snagged on a coiled length of maintenance rope the deck crew had left unsecured, still damp from an earlier deck wash, slick as ice under his sneaker. Balance deserted him in an instant. Arms windmilled. Fingers grazed the railing but found no purchase. His body tipped irrevocably backward and over. The fall lasted less than 2 seconds. Ryan's startled shout sliced the air. whoa, before the 40-foot drop ended in a violent smack against the water. The impact was like concrete. Ribs compressed, shoulder jarred, breath driven from his lungs in an explosive whoosh. Salt water rushed in, cold shock gripping his chest despite the sea's mild temperature. He surfaced choking, gasping, limbs thrashing instinctively. The ship's towering white superstructure loomed above, lights blazing, but already receding. The wake boiled behind the stern, propellers a menacing rumble far too close. On deck, Ethan lunged to the rail. Ryan, his voice cracked with raw panic. He scanned the black surface frantically. Nothing but foam and shadow. Mason stood frozen, mouth open. He just went over the side. Daniel sprinted to the red emergency call box mounted on a bulkhead and pounded the button. "Man overboard! Man overboard!" he yelled into the speaker, voice shaking. Caleb remained at the railing, eyes fixed on the fading disturbance in the water. "Current's taking him already. We need to mark the exact spot." The internal alarm triggered instantly on the bridge. Captain Jack Harlan, 56, with 30 years at sea and a calm born of countless emergencies, rose from his chair. "Man overboard confirmed. Lock GPS coordinates. Time, 1 hour 17 minutes and 42 seconds. First Officer Bill Travis silenced the audible alert on the bridge but activated quiet notifications to all emergency teams. No general shipwide siren to prevent passenger panic. Security footage replayed the incident in crisp detail. Ryan stretching, stepping back foot, catching rope, body tipping. Witness fall, Harlan noted. For adult male passengers unseen. In the water, Ryan battled to keep his head up. His hoodie and jeans, now sodden, dragged like lead weights. The initial shock made his breathing ragged, hard hammering against bruised ribs. Waves lifted him high, then plunged him into troughs where darkness felt thicker. The ship's lights shrank rapidly. 200 meters, 400, help. Over here, he shouted. But wind and engine noise devoured the words. Orientation dissolved. No clear up or down. Just rolling motion and endless black. His mind spun through terror and memory. His sister's face if she got the call. His friends' helpless shouts from the deck. Pain flared with every breath. Cracked ribs. Maybe a dislocated shoulder. He forced himself onto his back. Arms spread. Legs still. The deadman's float from every survival video he had ever watched. Energy conservation was everything now. But the night pressed in. Psychological weight as heavy as the physical. Something grazed his calf. Seaweed. Jellyfish tendril. Imagination conjured worse. Silent shapes rising from the depths, drawn by movement and warmth. Crew swarmed the promenade within 90 seconds. Junior Officer Alex Gomez, 29, took point. "Gentlemen, please move back from the rail. Rescue operations are underway." Ethan's fists clenched. "How long till you get him back? He's out there bleeding. Time?" "Williamson Turn commencing," Gomez replied. "Standard maneuver, 60-degree turn to starboard, then hard to port. Brings us back parallel to our track. 10 to 15 minutes minimum." Mason paced in tight circles. 15 minutes. At the speed. He'll be half a mile off by then. Daniel rubbed his face. "We called it immediately." "That counts for something." Caleb's voice was low. "Night makes spotting hard. Even thermal and spotlights fight glare and waves. On T-bridge systems hummed with precision. Speed dropped to 10 knots. Drift model calculated. Wind 7 knots southeast. Surfaced current 1.2 knots east. Search pattern expanding geometrically. Thermal cameras panned in systematic arcs. Spotlights ignited, carving white tunnels through the night. Radio chatter intensified. U.S. Coast Guard Miami sector notified. Nearby Liberian flagged freighter offering standby assistance. NOSA-based rescue helicopter potentially airborne within 40 minutes. Ryan's hope rose and fell with each distant beam. He heard the engines change pitch slower. Then the long, sweeping turn. Lights wheeled slowly across his field of vision. Exhaustion clawed deeper. Limbs trembled. Ribs burned with every inhale. Salt crusted his lips. Eyes stung. Hallucinations flickered. Voices calling his name. A hand reaching from below. He kicked weakly, splashing to stay visible. Please, see me. The friends clustered at the rail, refusing to retreat to the lounge. Security Chief Mike Larson, arrived 6-4, TexasDrawl.com authority. Walk me through it again. Stretching, Ethan said. Stepped back, caught his heel on loose rope. Over in a heartbeat. Larson noted it. Maintenance item will be addressed. Priority now is the search. The Voyager completed its maneuver, steaming back along the reciprocal course. Starboard rescue boat lowered smoothly for crew. Searchlights, life rings, thermal imager, first aid kit. Engines roared as it peeled away into the dark. Ryan caught the new sound first high-speed outboard motors. Then blinding lights swept over him. He raised one arm, waving frantically, throat raw from shouting. Visual contact crackled over the boat's radio. Survivor in water, responsive. The boat closed fast. Crew leaned over the side, strong hands gripping his wrists, shoulders, hauling him aboard. Warm blankets enveloped him immediately. Easy, sir. We've got you. Breathe slow. Docked back at the tender platform, medics took over. Ryan was transferred to the ship's infirmary on a stretcher, diagnosed with 2 cracked ribs, moderate hypothermia, shock, minor abrasions. For fluids, pain meds, warming blankets. The friends waited in the corridor, tension etched into every face. When allowed in, Ethan gripped Ryan's forearm. Scared the hell out of us, brother. Ryan's voice rasped. Felt like the ocean was trying to keep me. The remainder of the cruise passed under a new shadow. Ethan avoided open railings after dark. Mason texted his mother every evening. Daniel called Maria twice a day. Voice softer, Ryan's photography shifted more. Long exposures of empty decks, shadowed water, solitary figures against vast night. Caleb spent longer hours on watch, eyes on the horizon. The incident left an indelible mark. The ocean had revealed its indifferent power not through storm or rage, but through quiet, patient depth. A single misstep, a forgotten coil of rope, and the night could claim anyone. They disembarked in Miami days later, carrying home stories of near loss and improbable rescue. But in quiet moments driving home from work, lying awake at 3 a.m., each man heard it again. The soft lap of water against steel, the receding hum of engines, the endless dark waiting just beyond the lights. And Taken knew without saying it how fragile the line truly was between safety and the void. How often does this happen? The friends asked themselves that question in the days following Ryan's fall. Back on land, Ethan did some digging. Overboard incidents on cruise ships are rare, but they do occur globally, a handful each year. Some accidental, like Ryan's slip, others intentional or mysterious. Cruise lines report them to authorities, but the numbers are low compared to the millions who sail annually. Ships are built for safety, with high railings and strict protocols, but risks linger in the shadows of night. Ethan shared the stats with the group chat. Makes you appreciate how lucky we got. Could have been worse. The knowledge grounded them, turning raw fear into a sober respect for the sea. The moment of the fall replayed in their minds like a slow-motion nightmare. The ship's speed 20 knots meant Ryan was hundreds of meters behind in minutes. The height from the promenade deck to the water was 40 feet, enough to cause serious injury on impact. Ryan later described the hit like being slammed by a truck, breath gone, pain everywhere. The disorientation in the dark water was immediate cold shock, stealing his senses, panic rising as the ship's lights faded. The group talked about it over beers back home, the horror of those first seconds etched deep Detection systems on modern ships like the Voyager saved Ryan. Motion sensors along the railings triggered an alert. Thermal cameras caught his heat signature in playback, and hundreds of CCTV feeds confirmed the fall. AI on newer vessels scans for anomalies, but witnesses like the friends were key. If we hadn't been there, Mason said, who knows? Not all ships have full automation yet. A fact that chilled them. The man overboard alarm changed everything. The bridge was notified in seconds. Speed reduced, GPS marked. The Williamson Turn began a precise loop to retrace the path. Turning a 100,000-ton ship takes time and space. The friends learned from Chief Larson. Ryan drifted farther with every delay, currents pulling him silently. Survival time in water at night depends on so many factors. The Caribbean's warm waters gave Ryan hours, but in colder seas, hypothermia sets in. Fast body heat lost 25 times quicker in water. Waves and currents accelerated drift. Heavy clothes reduced buoyancy. Marine life added rare but real threats. Sharks weren't my worry, Ryan admitted. It was the dark, the alone. Search protocols kicked in hard. Broadcasts alerted crew. Lifeboats deployed. Coast Guard called. Spotlights swept. Thermal imaging hunted. Radar modeled drift. Night made it hell waves, reflecting light. Shadows deceiving. Why night makes it worse? No differences, disorientation, sounds lost, panic, burning energy. Ryan felt it all. The ocean's vastness crushing. Realistic outcomes vary. Success like Ryan's relies on quickdetection.com sees. Delays drop odds fast. Prevention, high railings, barriers, patrols, policies, ships minimize risks. In the end, the ocean's scale humbles. At night, it doesn't shout, it swallows. Thanks for watching.